Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Thursday night segment of The Outer Realm. We are broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network 105.3 FM from the Gulf Coast, 107.7 FM from beautiful New Orleans. We are fully sponsored by the amazing people over at Folgers Coffee who have been a part of our journey since the very beginning. So thank you, Folgers. It wouldn't be the same without you. Also, big thanks to Steve McGinnis, the artist behind our logos here at the show. Check him out on Facebook and Instagram. Specializes in the horror and Halloween genre and does incredible commission pieces of any sort. So, tonight, of course, we're having another amazing open discussion. And we're going to be exploring, I guess, the shadow people phenomena. So, who are they, or who do we think they are? It's all speculation. Where do they come from? What do they want? We'll explore some stories, some folklore, and share a few tales along the way, and kind of see where it takes us. So, of course, we value your input, and we're hoping that you guys can contribute. Let us know what you think as well, and it'll make for interesting conversation. So, without further ado, of course, is my guest co-host for the evening, Wayne Mallows.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm all right. I'm struggling as usual. I got the problems with the setup here. Things are moving around, and I had it all set up really good, and all of a sudden things are gone askew here.
That's not good.
Nah, that's me. Wouldn't
I
want
know.
it any other way, really. I wouldn't know what to do if anything went right.
It's okay. It's okay. Everything's laid back, and that's what we want. We want this really cool, laid back
Thank
conversation.
goodness. Thanks. I'm not being critiqued on this. It's failing miserably.
No. I'm still like fighting the head cold, and it's still like so. Bear with me.
I know. I know.
I know. Might just take one of like my fisherman's friends.
Oh boy.
Anyway, I know. So the elusive shadow people, and I've been researching this because Kat from Paranormal Heart and I have been discussing this and thought, okay, I'm going to do a trial run. I'm going to do a bit of a deep dive. Some of it, some of it's sort of generic, but there's like a lot of folklore. Every culture's got their folklore. And of course, you don't want to be here all night getting into it, but we will be able to just to shave some down sort of thing. But ironically, when I mentioned this to Wayne, all of a sudden, this show comes up on us too. Comes up on Amazon. And it's called Shadow People. We're like, all right.
That's because Siri is listening all the time.
I know. And we're like, we'll bite. We'll bite. So we started watching this show, and it was crazy because, of course, it tells you it's true accounts. But I mean, when we dug a little deeper, it's kind of like questionable as to how much of it is and where the source really came from. But in the movie, they tell you it's based on this professor, and at some college, and it was a program called 71 Sleep or something like that. It was some experiment on this stuff, and of course, it comes down to the fact that all of the test subjects died, and you end up having this kind of sleep paralysis. But the idea was that I guess he was trying to get everybody while they were sleeping to open this physical door that was in the laboratory. What I think happened, and Wayne and I were jamming about this, is that they psychically opened up a portal. Because all of a sudden, the shadow guy comes out, the shadow person, and he starts tormenting different people. And one of these kids, these students, calls into this radio show and says, this is happening, like this is really happening. So the whole thing starts to unfold. And then the radio show guy starts getting all of this happening, and these mysterious deaths start happening, right? So I don't know. So Wayne said, okay, let's just look at this for a minute. This is a bit crazy. So when we started getting into it, What was the exact story behind that again? Do you remember?
Yeah, there was. I think they took a lot of creative license, and that's cool. I think that's neat. But there was actually unexplained deaths that happened in this particular state. There was a rash of them, and it's just like they'd go to sleep perfectly healthy, and they'd get checked on in the next morning, or they wouldn't show up for work, and they were dead in their bed. And it was just like, oh shit, okay, 1, 2, 3, 9. It's just like
Yeah.
it starts to be a bit much. And when they were doing the different interviews on people and what they thought about, a lot of the people that were, from I think it was from Colombia area, like the indigenous people of Colombia said, oh, if you asked us what it was, we tell you exactly what it was, but you don't want to hear about that that's not mainstream science.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
that's the story, and then they just kind of looped it into this guy that was doing a sleep study. But yeah, if that actually
Yeah.
occurred, I think you're right. I think they're collectively, before you go to sleep, everyone focus on open this door, and they all go to bed going, open this door, open this
Mm.
door, open this door, and then I think you're right. They opened a portal and
Mm. Yeah.
something nasty came out.
And based on this, I just pulled it up the Russian sleep experiment.
Mhm.
Okay, so this is like a creepy pasta sort of thing. Okay, it comes from there. I think that's where like Slender Man actually came from
Mhm.
as well. Okay, so it tells a tale of 5 Soviet era test subjects being exposed to an experimental sleep inhibiting I'll be all right stimulant. It has become the basis of an urban legend. Many new organizations or news organizations, much as Snopes, which I mean, some people think that's in itself is questionable. News.com, Australia, live about different ones, trace the story's origin to a website known as Creepypasta by a user named Orange Soda. So if you guys are on the website, you can always check that out. But the real name is unknown. So the Russian sleep experiment became immensely popular upon its original publication. Much of the online and offline debate surrounds the belief held by many that the story is real and not fictitious. Therefore, there's a lot of people who try to debunk it, but there's a lot of people who are out there saying, no, this is a thing. So is this what led to the basis of the movie? It seems to be the closest thing that we could find, that shows any semblance to the story. But it is kind of cool.
There was a lot of talk back in the Cold War, 50s and 60s. Multiple countries were doing like studies on remote viewing and everything else. And there was also talk that, well, if you're already in your subconscious state, which is your sleep state,
Mm.
if you're more powerful in that state. So a lot of these countries were doing studies on sleep. Could you actually, tap into the subconscious from the conscious and then travel,
Mm.
to spy or, to do harm.
Mhm.
That's what they were all about back in those days. So
Mhm.
nothing good comes from these sort of poking the bear kind of thing.
No, I agree with you. I agree with
Mm,
you entirely. I mean, it's still one of those things. Like a lot of people in the paranormal, can and do disagree. As many as there are that are very unified, but this seems to be one of those topics that people seem to be somewhat unified on. They're like, yeah, there's something not right with these because you don't really know what they are. Some people will tell you they're demonic. Some people will tell you they're, interdimensional. I mean, some people there. I've even seen articles where people have essentially said that they were time travelers, which leads again, I think, to more of a um, interdimensional being, perhaps. So, what are they? It tends to lean towards that, or extraterrestrial. Could they be again interdimensional? You don't have to be like officially what is like an ET kind of well, as we know them. So I mean, astral beings, time travelers, the idea of these shadows are simply astral beings or time travelers who have slipped through one dimension or another. I don't know.
personally, it's like late, like I say lately, last 6 months, like my train of thought, and keep in mind, like no education, no study,
Right,
no,
right,
it's just
right.
little me, just like it's
Yeah,
my thought. That's all, right? Is
yeah,
that I
yeah.
think that it's I'm leaning a lot more towards dimensional activity than even ET activity that, could be ET, but they're coming through dimensionals, they're coming through portals, they're
Mhm,
passing through different dimensions to get here rather
mhm,
than traveling like 5 million light years to get here. They're just like boop, popping through is what I'm thinking. So
mhm.
this just lends itself to the same idea that whatever they are, I think it's connected through dimensions, not, you know, they just came out of the ground one day.
Mhm. Well, when you look at that hypothesis, the ET one, there's certain perspectives, on shadow people where people are kind of going, you know. One of these, of course, was a hypothesis done by researcher Rosemary Ellen uh, Gilly, who's no longer with us. But she was is exceptional researcher. And she suggested a connection between shadow entities and ET abductions experiences, noting that many who reported shadow people also reported alien encounters. So when you're looking at that, for example, I could say the same thing because I've had all kinds of people having paranormal experiences. Now, bearing that in mind, at least half of those people had also been experiencers of some sort also of with ET. And shadows come up all the time. I mean, it was just something that was very commonplace. I would say at least with 80 of the people that I spoke with or had dealt with through, my decades of work. And sometimes they were just downright aggressive. Sometimes they would just stand there and watch you and not move at all. They were just there. You could see the presence. And then, we'll get into the Hat Man a little bit later.
Yeah, I want
But
to talk about that too, specifically the Hat Man, but carry
yeah,
on.
but I remember working. A family had contacted me, and this woman had basically said, like, this thing had been there for about 50 years, like high levels of different paranormal activity. But the one thing that was always consistent while everything else changed was the fact that she would come home, every day when she would come home from work. And even when she retired, she wasn't outside as much, but when she was, day or night, okay, which kind of pulls away a little bit from the other theory we're going to talk about. But there was a Hat Man, and he was just sort of standing on this veranda of hers as she got home, always there.
Hmm.
And, she'd walk right into the house and nothing ever happened, but that presence was always there. And she just, she goes, I don't know if it was like a cowboy hat or a fedora, but it was that sort of an idea, this Hat Man.
That'd be a bit unnerving. I've seen a lot of stuff. I wouldn't want to see that every night I came in.
50 years.
No, I see that.
50
Honey, we're
years.
moving. That's it of that.
I know. But if you're getting into because scientifically people say no, this is sleep paralysis. So if we get into the sleep paralysis
How
thing,
can it be sleep paralysis when you're walking through the front door and you're
well, and
seeing it?
that's what I'm saying. It sort of takes away a little bit from that whole theory. Not that it doesn't happen. Not that they're not associated, but I'm just saying not in every case. So, I mean, if you're looking in at sleep paralysis, it's huge in paranormal world, extraterrestrial contact or abduction theories. This is what they always say. So during an episode, okay, and I've had it happen to me twice. So I get what this is totally all about. But it's also like called like a waking nightmare. So you fall asleep, you wake up during this episode, you might hallucinate, hear things, feel things, see things that aren't there, which basically can last a couple of minutes, but your limbs are temporarily paralyzed, your heart rate and blood pressure rises. And they're creepy. Like they really are creepy. Like, and you do feel like you are in the space with something, right? So this happens with, again, different cultures look at it different ways, right? because in China they'll say, "Oh no, it's a ghost." The hag syndrome with the where they have
Yeah.
like this hag sitting on your chest, and here they say with the shadow being that it's the shadow that could be pushing down on your chest is what people have reported. But I mean, scientifically speaking, there was this physicist in Canada. He was doing research in Japan, and this is what he reported. Now, bear in mind, this is a scientist, and he claimed he did not believe in evil spirits or anything like that. Yet this guy was terrified when it happened to him. So once a week, he would started sensing this threatening presence. Like it felt like this evil thing beside his bed. And while he was paralyzed, once a week, crazy. His ears rang. He felt like a weight pressed down on his chest as he struggled to breathe.
Yeah.
He felt intense pressure in his head, like it was going to explode.
Mm.
Found himself transported upward and looking down at his body. And he felt as though, he was being hurled through this long tunnel. So
Mm.
I don't know. How do you look at that and just say, well, like it's not,
I bet his point of view has changed at that point.
yeah, he said
his perspective.
yeah, he said he didn't believe in any of that. And he said like
No.
the experience was just wild. So, I mean, and this is a physicist, so we know there's definitely something to it.
I mean, the more I go along on this journey that I'm on, what I realize more than anything is, I mean, 10 years ago, I figured like, I don't know bupkis about what's going on in the world. Like, I really don't. Like, I'm just like, doo, and now I know so much more. And all it does is make me realize that I know even less, that even more is hidden and tucked away. And, it's like, it's really mind boggling. It's like you start to scratch the surface and you realize, well, you only got like 700,000 miles to go. That's not too bad.
Mhm.
It's mind blowing. But I mean, I had that shadow in the house before, but that wasn't. I'm sure that wasn't a shadow person. That was something like malevolent. It was nasty. That thing was nasty and big and dark and
Mm.
yeah, no,
But you had a white shadow, and it's not the first time I've heard
yeah,
of white apparitions that resemble like a shadow person.
yeah. That was. I tried to recall that when we were jamming about it earlier, and it's like I don't recall seeing it, but I think what it was when the manor was open as a full on bed and breakfast for the
Mm.
experience. I had one couple come down and said that they saw a white shadow in the hallway upstairs. Now, without looking at it myself and without looking at a photograph of it, like, was the white shadow like literally just a white specter? Was it just a ghost that they thought was a white shadow? Was the white on the wall without form? Did it move along like a shadow? Like, I don't have the
Mm.
recollection or the documentation to back that up, but they were convinced that they saw a white shadow outside
Mhm.
the bedroom in the hallway, the long hallway that led from the back room forward.
Mhm. Yeah. I
But when
don't know.
I was looking up stuff on, just figuring out light and stuff like this, and what I found really interesting was we as humans, our eyes can only see such a small percentage of what we understand as natural light. Right, this little tiny window of what we can see. Everything outside that we can't see. It doesn't mean it's not there.
Mhm.
But what it went further to say was when you have complete absence of light,
Mhm.
that's the pitch black that you see. And that would explain why when I look at something in the dark and then you see something that's darker than dark, and I always thought that was ridiculous until I saw it. And then it was like, oh, I'm one of those guys now. But
Mhm.
I did see something that was darker than dark. And that's like complete absence of light, which led me to think about black holes. Like, black holes are visible because they're completely absent of light.
Mhm.
So these shadow beings that we see that are darker than dark, that take up space in a corner, you can't see through them. They're
Mhm.
black, black, black. Or are they just a complete absence of light, which goes back to, are they
Mhm.
in our dimension from their dimension where there is no light?
Well, that's an interesting. hypothesis for sure.
Well,
I
light
mean,
is energy. If they're just
yeah.
absorbing light from your room
Hmm.
or your surroundings, they would just suck it right up. You wouldn't see anything, no features, anything. But then you look at some of those shadow beings, they have the white eyes. Some don't.
So is it light that comes through their eyes? Like,
Don't
what
know.
is that exactly?
Don't know. But you see just as many that have the white eyes as you do, they're formless, shapeless, no eyes, no features, nothing.
Hmm. Yeah. And sometimes they're really nothing more. Uh, Hey, Dolly, second dimensional being you suddenly see. Yeah. For sure. And,
Hmm.
that's what I was saying, like, interdimensional for sure. There is a lot of hypothesis that goes. Sometimes they're nothing more, but just catching a glimpse out of the corner of your eye. It just moves very, very quickly,
Do
you
you
know?
know, like in your research, because I certainly don't know, do you know or have encountered people that have had shadow being encounters where the shadow being has touched them or moved something in their environment? Did they grab them? Did they push them, hold them down? Or is it just like
Mhm.
a scary figure of a humanoid standing in the corner or looking over you or something? I don't have any basis for that. I don't know.
Um, I have heard stories. Now, I mean, I've dealt with, and met so many people in my travels who I've helped, some who I've just worked through or with, other researchers. And I've had people say things like where they've been scratched.
Mhm.
Now, were they aware of the shadow person doing the scratching? It was just stories along the lines of that's all that was ever spotted in the house, or that a shadow person was witnessed just before being, where the attack had happened. And again, whether it's just a scratch or, a push, people had said they have felt them like something kind of go through them
Hmm.
and seen that sort of thing, seen a shadow, within the space. But I mean, to say specifically, I can't say for sure because I get that information secondhand. It's like you say, if you're not there to witness it, but when people, for example, like we're talking about sleep paralysis, if they're getting the feeling of what the paranormal will call the hag syndrome, but they're saying it's like a shadow person, like they're watching a shadow being and they feel this is what's pushing on them, that tells me there's a physical interaction. Other
Yeah.
people have reported shadow beings in the corner. They're just looking at them while they're asleep. So, or while they're in this state of paralysis.
There are so many similarities just talking with you tonight with this. It's just like you have the ET similarity. And just when you said like about the shadow person going through somebody, like I've had a spirit pass through me. They don't even know I'm there. And it's a feeling you'll never forget.
Hmm.
Then you've got the shadow people doing the same thing. It's like I'm starting to see like as the dots connect, there's not that much space between all these different high strangeness encounters
Hmm.
than what we thought originally. We always had a degree of separation. Well, that's a ghost, and that's a Sasquatch, and that's an ET, and that's a shadow, and that's a poltergeist, and all this stuff. And as we go down this road, that is getting closer and closer and closer and closer and closer to like, are they all like the phenomena? Are they all just one thing that's occurring, and then in sort of different representations of the same thing?
Hmm. That's a tough one. I think because there's just so many, there's just so many people who have different experiences, whether you can attribute it to an ET experience, whether you can attribute it to a tulpa sort of thing, whether you can attribute it to the paranormal. The paranormal, everybody's got, a story. If you're a paranormal experiencer, chances are you're an ET experiencer, and chances are you're an experiencer of many other things. You're just open to different things, right? But I mean, to me, someone once asked me, "Do you think they're just another race of beings?" I don't know. I'm thinking, why are you asking me? Because, I really don't know.
Aren't
Maybe.
you aren't you the know-all? Don't you know everything? Come on now.
We have to just ask ourselves, much I'd like to say, sure. Um, I mean, we don't know what is out there. We speculate what is out there. You go back like how many moons ago, a few decades ago, um, and asked, how many races of ET is out there? That's, oh, there's three. Paul Hillier came out and said, no, there's like all kinds of them. And now more people come forward and say, no, there are more. So how do we know that they are not just another race of
Mhm.
beings? But then again, people say the same thing with vampires. And how do we know they do not come from another dimension or another, just another plane of existence? I mean, we don't know. We
I
know
do.
that we know that things like this often start with folklore. So let me just get to some folklore for a minute. So we have, the scientific explanations, which of course is sleep, sleep paralysis, sleep deprivation, pareidolia, right? Neurological factors, right? We know substance abuse, things like that. Yes, that's the hallucination part of everything, 100%. If you start getting into the paranormal and cultural theories, we are looking at interdimensional beings, demons or jinn, astral bodies,
Mm.
right? Which suggests, again, like I said, tulpas, thought forms, just created by a concentrated negative energy. And that's going with the whole, they're all negative. Do we know if they are or not? I don't know, but I've never really heard anybody have, like, even just watching different interviews and things, I've never really had or heard anybody say, yeah, they're great. Sometimes you just watch and they're harmless. Other times, not so much. Other people say, are they ghosts? Are they just somebody maybe who hasn't been able to completely, manifest? So are we just looking at bits and pieces like that? You can get into the whole orb thing as well. Like, I mean, there's a lot you can get into. But if we get into, for example, Native American folklore, okay, it does feature various shadow beings. And I'm going to butcher all this because they're indigenous names, but as the Chokta, Nalusa Falaya, long, tall being, and Nalusa Chito, big black soul eating shadow. That sounds like the most
Sounds like a
horrific
good time.
thing. I know. I'm reading that going, God, it's a soul eating shadow. These entities, and I just yanked this offline. This is Native American folklore. These entities are often described as malevolent or trickster spirits that inhabit forests, cause fear, prey on human sorrow and negative thoughts. The key aspects of Native American shadow lore include Shilombish, again, the Choctaw, considered as an outside shadow or wandering spirit that can frighten people to death or after death. Okay, after death. The Navajo, which is the Chindi, is an avenging ghost-like spirit released at death that can cause what's called ghost sickness. Behavior. They're often described as dark, shape-shifting, or tall, slender humanoids that move rapidly, sometimes appearing in the your peripheral, right? Origins, while some legends view them as malevolent, here we go. Others treat them as neutral or protective entities. So these traditional stories share similarities with modern reports of shadow people, which are frequently described as dark, shadowy figures or masses. But again, neutral or protective. So are we just assuming that they're all bad because of how we feel? For example, if one's standing in the corner just watching us.
Well, I think human beings in general, it's if you don't understand it, you're fearful of what it is. That
Mhm.
you compound that by walking into your sanctuary, your place, your bedroom, your house, where you're supposed to feel safe, and all of a sudden there's something in there that's not supposed to be there. You'd feel exactly the same if there was the guy in there wearing a jean jacket and a hat. How did you get
Yeah.
in here? What you'd be very apprehensive of how this person's in there. It'd be no different. The fear response is instant.
Well, I mean, you're going to be on edge, even if somebody lurks into your house and watches you in the shadows at
Hundred
night. You know
percent.
what I mean? Like it's not all shadow beings per se, but do we attribute what they are because of how they make us feel?
Or
I
how they
mean,
look.
how they look. It's an intrusion, right? That's just to have any sort of specter, anything, just standing there watching you when you're asleep, because you're supposed to feel at your safest, you
Hmm.
know, in the boudoir when you're just trying to go to sleep. You're supposed to feel safe, right? And created by our mind from negative energy, like fear and doubt. And that's where I
Hmm.
was going to go as well. So thank you, Matthew. That and welcome. But no, 100%, because we see. I believe in a lot of also synthetic, fabricated frequencies that are all out there, all over the place. And I believe being energy, that we can't maybe be affected by things like that. So if you are fearful, and it's funny because we were just talking about this today as well. If you are fearful and you're full of angst, or you're angry, or you have a lot of these negative emotions, it would attract other negative things into your space. If you have addictions, are you hallucinating, or are you just so darn relaxed that you open up completely for anything to come your way, you know?
So what you're saying is you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't, right?
Maybe, I don't know.
Hmm.
But again, I mean, for people to think no, that they are, and for our Native American people to sit there and think no, some of them are our guardians or protectors. They're just there. We're just uncomfortable because they were not invited in, and here they are. But in the same respect, if you saw a little shadow puppy, would you feel the same way as this big, tall, 7, 8 foot tall shadow being that's all intimidating looking? Like, what is
No,
it exactly about it?
I think it goes back to like our biological, not our spiritual. Is that
Mm,
I think when you see something that's out of your wheelhouse, then you're going to have that fight or flight response unconsciously. It's going to happen,
mhm.
Like I know I've got friends that would be like, "Hey," and they'd run right into that corner, fists up, ready to go. Then you've
Yeah,
got me be like, "Hey, I'm out."
yeah. Here I am. Here I
you know,
am.
oh
Yeah.
yes, oh yes, I make no bones about that. I can run fast.
Yeah. No, exactly. I think it's definitely how we look at things. And I woke, Dolly, I woke to the reality I'm never alone. Truth.
Truth.
Security is only as good as your perception or safety. Privacy really is not possible in the psychic arena. Well, no,
Especially not in this
absolutely.
day and age.
No, no, no. So we look at that, and it's again something to factor in. Now we have some of like American folklore, not so much just Native American, but American folklore. So I started looking at this, and they're described again, dark, human shaped silhouettes often seen in the peripheral during sleep paralysis, and it kind of goes on and on. Common characteristics. Usually described as 7 to 8 foot tall dark shadows, sometimes wearing hats or trench coats,
Hmm.
appearing, vanishing, passing through walls. See, this is interesting to me. Uh, you
Me
know,
too.
the trench coat, like the attire.
You know what that brings? Like I was going to bring this up as we go along, but since we're here, we can dive right in. You know who that reminds me of? The hat and the trench coat, right? Don't say Columbo.
I was going to say
Don't
Columbo.
say Columbo, right?
Okay.
All right. It's the Men in Black, right?
Yeah.
The Men in Black.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
my
Okay.
in my way my Lego brain works, what happened? What if that was like the Men in Black were the sort of state of the art, as it were, in the 40s and 50s? What if they have, tweaked that now? So they don't
Mm.
actually need to have a humanoid dude walking around. They can just in and out with the shadow, right? Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Well, that it can make a lot of sense. What I was going to say is that maybe we are shadow people to others. Like, are we traveling when we
Oh
sleep,
yeah, it
for
could be. Oh
example?
yeah.
Are we shadow people to others? Is it a thing? Is it about maybe how you can manifest within certain dimensions or certain realms? She goes, what I was thinking with sleep paralysis, I was unknowingly having an out of body experience in the realm, encountered different dark things. The
Mhm.
soul leaders. Oh boy. Yes. Well, that's what they're saying. It could be a thing. So she goes, yes, we are. See, right. So right there, maybe that's what we have visitors.
Well,
We're
that
experiencing
you and I
travelers.
talk about dreams all the time, and it's like I know the difference between when I'm having what I call a benign dream, there's nothing,
Hmm.
and the dreams where I don't even call them dreams anymore, I just call them traveling,
Right.
like the traveling
The traveling.
experiences.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's me, but I don't look like me, and I don't sound like me, and I don't act like me,
Hmm.
and I'm encountering all kinds of other people and places and things
Hmm.
where I interact with these things.
Hmm. Yeah. See, again, I have to agree because I've had very similar situations, and you're kind of like you're living a real existence, it seems.
Yeah.
Matthew says, perhaps those are thought forms created by human minds that live in the collective unconsciousness that may be illusions, but have a form of consciousness that they borrow from a souled being.
Mhm.
That's a good hypothesis for
Well, how many
sure.
times have I talked about the thoughts going into the collective stew pot, right?
Mm,
All our thoughts, all the culmination of our emotions, energies, good, bad, everything goes into the collective stew. So if we're constantly, this is garbage, I'm mad, I'm angry, I'm crying, that all goes into the stew. And then we wonder why, when we try to pull energy from the collective, it's just nasty. It doesn't taste good anymore.
hmm
It's so important to try to have to put good intention, good thoughts every single day, into that collective, because that's all we have. There isn't another pot of stew we can go to if this one's bad.
hmm Right. Again, strong possibility. It's always the attire that freaks me out because,
Hmm.
how many times when we look at even some spirits, and you see a spirit in a wheelchair or a spirit in a bicycle.
Hmm.
It's just like,
Oh, I've seen
where'd
that.
the bike come from?
Yeah.
Where did
I've
that come
seen
from?
that. Yep. Yep.
Mm,
We've talked about this when we used to do the ghost tours. We talked about this. The
mm,
wheelchair, I can logically get my head around it, because
yeah.
if that's what your physical being knew in life for its entire life, then I think when you manifest, is it just part of your being? That's how you manifest yourself, because that's how
Mm,
you identify your physical, right? And the
mm.
bicycle, though, like, it's amazing to me when you see a ghost spirit child in a courtyard, and this little being is riding its tricycle around the courtyard, and it's like, wait a minute, it's a ghost. Like,
It's a ghost. Yeah, yeah.
how did you manifest your clothes, your little shoes, and that metal tricycle? Like, how did you do that? That's crazy.
Well, it also shows, it takes a lot of energy to
Oh
do
yeah.
things like that. It really does.
I can't even
So
make breakfast in the morning, like, it's without a mess. You know what I mean? Like, how do they do that? It's crazy.
I know. I know. Um, yes, Caroline, that's what I mentioned earlier, like a tulpa effect, So essentially, okay, we'll explore that for a minute. What are the aspects of these things? Like, what are they? So if you're looking at, again, these things are featureless, except for the occasional hat, trench coat, sometimes white eyes. I mean, I've had people say it looked like light was just spewing out of their eyes. Other people said red eyes. They move fast. If you're looking at different things like that, um, you know, how it's also so generic. But even though it's all rooted in really ancient folklore, which we were talking about the Native American folklore a minute ago, um, at the end of the day, we're talking creepy pasta, which is exactly where the Slender Man came from.
Hmm.
So it is very possible as we start talking about them, but it does surface, it does come back up and over and over and over again. And now they've almost in the paranormal become household names within the field.
Oh yeah, like 20 years ago, I haven't even heard these things. I
I
never
know.
heard of them. And I was always interested in ghosts and ET and other things like that. I'd never heard of these things. But when you say featureless, they're still featureless.
Mhm.
They just have the silhouette
It's a silhouette.
changes.
Mhm.
They have a hat on. You don't see
Mhm.
you don't see the brim. You don't see the stitching. They have a
Mhm.
trench coat on. You don't see the folds in the trench coat. You don't see pockets. You
Mhm.
just know it's a trench coat because it's the outline of one.
Mhm.
There's no buttons. You can't see anything. They're still featureless, whether they're silhouetted with a hat and a coat or not.
Mhm.
I think
Yeah.
I'd be more comforted if I could see a hat and a coat. When they're all those little stick figures that are black and a little bulby head, that's it's like
I know. I know. No, some of them are, you look at some, and I've heard of stories where they don't look like traditional shadow people. Like some of them look like they have things coming out of them, and I mean it's extreme. Then you get those who just look like they're leaning up against things, like the Marlboro Man, just sort of leaning
oh,
up with
those
their
are
head.
those plywood cutouts. You can buy them at
Yeah,
coffee stores.
I'm just saying. I am just saying.
Yeah.
It gets a little bit. It gets a little bit crazy.
Do you want me to
Um,
cut you out a cowboy and have it lean against the tree outside? I can do that tomorrow.
Yeah, great. When my daughter was little, she used to scream and run out of her room and said she saw a tall man in a black coat and a black hat, but she could never see his face. Right
See,
there, right
but
there.
that was similar. Like I was telling this on Paranormal Heart the other night when we were talking about my house that I had quite a few years ago now. It was like a cookie cutter home, 30 years old. And I had the most relaxed, chillax cat. Like he was just a fun little thing.
Hmm.
Never showed fear of anything really. And then one day I put on a coat to go to a Halloween gig, and it was
Hmm.
a long black leather trench coat that went from my shoulders to the ground, had long black hair. And I came down the stairs. That cat took one look at me, went underneath the coffee table, and it was a low coffee table. It only had it had a shelf at the bottom. He squeezed himself through that and wouldn't come out. I'm like, did he see something in the house when I wasn't there that was a
Mm.
shadow that looked like that scared him? Because I'd never seen that behavior before.
And you had it from just a little thing, a kitten.
Yep, yep,
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah. So what comes through? That's the thing exactly. I mean, what comes through? So
I don't
I
know what
don't
happened in
know.
that day. He was
Yeah.
terrified, and I took the coat off, and he came out. I was like, I
Mm.
don't. He was terrified of the coat, or me in the coat. Like I'm tall, like I'm 6'2", so
Mm.
when I have like a long coat on, I can look the part, but
Hmm. Yeah. There's a notion too that they can appear how they want you to see them. Maybe some ghosts are in the Hat Man disguise. Many possibilities.
truth.
Oh, they can.
Well,
Yeah.
if they can manifest a tricycle, I'm sure they can manifest a coat
For ghosting, yeah. With
for
the
sure.
wheelchairs, projection of sound, projection of imagery, for sure, for sure. Um, hmm. So let's talk about the Hat Man. When we're getting into that, you're looking at, again, some people have reported, okay, description: Hat Man, widely reported paranormal phenomenon described as a tall shadow like entity wearing a brimmed hat or a fedora, trench coat, commonly encountered in sleep paralysis or while falling asleep. Typically featureless, dark, motionless, sometimes associated with feelings of intense fear. Well, I could do it. If you're just falling asleep or you wake up and you see him, yeah, it could be a bit unnerving. Often described from anywhere from 6 to 10 foot tall. Like that's imposing.
Yeah,
Silhouette appearing in a dark, misty, or solid human shaped figure. Contacts. While linked to sleep paralysis, sightings have also been reported by people under severe stress, high anxiety states, or according to anecdotal reports on platforms like, let's say, for example, Reddit, as a hallucination induced by high doses of, let's say, something like Benadryl, the different hydramine, Benadryl, for example. Behavior. Hatman is often seen standing in the corner of a room, in doorways, or beside the bed, because that's just too close for comfort, watching the observer before vanishing. So the cultural significance of this is prominent type of shadow person. The Hat Man is a reoccurring figure in modern folklore and internet creepypasta, often considered to be a harbinger of doom or terror, harbinger of terror, rather than a ghost with a distinct personality.
Well, I mean, if high levels of stress can bring this thing about, I should see this thing like every night of my life for the last 50 years.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
if
right,
that
right.
brings it about, because man, there's the stress that the people are under right now. So they'd be seeing it all the time.
So maybe that's another another question. Is there an influx of sightings going on?
That'd be interesting to put it out there. Like I know world's in a rough place right now. People are stressed out, and
Mhm,
with jobs and work and where the world is, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
mhm.
And I wonder if they're seeing more and more of these beings. It would be let's take a survey. Let's do a poll.
Let's do a poll. Shadow people.
The
I
shadow
mean,
people poll.
there's a lot of stories. Like I remember again, I made mention of one with the woman with the hat man on her veranda every day when she came home from work. And we're talking middle of the day. Like a
Mhm.
lot of this seems to be in the shadows, seems to be people who are going to sleep or asleep having sleep paralysis. But what about the day sightings?
Yeah, that's hard to explain. You're not sleeping. You're wide awake. You're
Yeah.
in motion. You're walking,
Hmm.
and you see this thing in the same place every day.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I just want to. It makes you want to know, like the inquisitive child that's with inside me would be like, okay, I've seen you there for the last 10 years in the same spot at 3 o'clock. I'm staying home from work today. I'm going to sit in a chair in that spot and see what happens.
Yeah, but even when she stopped working, okay, and when let's say she just went out ran errands,
Hmm.
like when she retired, because this one was in her 70s now.
Hmm.
It's been going on since her 20s, and she said, "I would just come home, and there he would be,"
I guess you don't
and
know if she ever tried to, like, hello, what are you doing here? Who are you?
would you want to?
That's after that much time. Yes, I would want
Yeah.
to because I would want answers. Like, what are you doing here?
So is it residual?
I don't know. Or I mean, it's not mall world where you're not supposed to talk to the entities,
I
right? I
know.
mean, like if this thing's on my veranda every day for year after year, day after day. Every time I take the garbage out, it's there. I go to the store, it's there. I go to the dentist, it's there. I'd come. I mean, at one point, I'd just be like, "Yo, dude,
Mhm.
like, what are you? What are you doing here? Are you lost? Need help?
Yeah.
Do you need help, little demon man?"
Hello. Yeah. Exactly.
Oh,
Exactly. It's a curiosity if there is, though, an influx now. But I've heard stories of, let's say, again, different circumstances with shadow people. And I've gotten over the years the occasional picture, not many, though.
mm,
And again, it's so hard because sometimes you're looking at pareidolia. Everything looks like it's got a shape in the shadows or in the dark, or if you're fearful. Um, but I had one person, I tried to find this picture, and for the life of me, I could not. But it was, I guess it was, I say it was a small alleyway between two outbuildings on a very large property. And there was some kind of a cart there, like a big giant gardening cart of some sort. And you could see there was this very tall, very thin shadow being there. And I thought, that is crazy. But I
mm.
do have one I could share with you guys that was sent to me a few years back. You guys be the judge. You guys be the judge. I just came across it again. When I was looking for the other one, I'm like, I'm going to play with this one a little bit and maybe just look at, lightening it up a little bit as well. I haven't done that yet because I wanted to show it to you guys in its natural form. Here
I mean, just
it,
like you say, that the lack of photographic evidence on that.
yeah.
I mean, you
This
have
is this is a
tons of
person.
pictures.
This is a person who's like I believe sleeping, or could be in bed or on a sofa. Somebody snapped this picture of the individual and
Hmm.
claimed that never saw anything in front of her, right?
Oh, I get you now. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
didn't know. Somebody was just snapping a picture, and this is what was there. Now, if this is indeed two shadow beings from what we can see, And I don't know that it is yet. I really don't. Like, I mean, who am I? I wasn't there, but I will play with this and lighten it all up and see. But what about the person taking the picture? I mean, neither one of them saw them. So here they are, and they're invisible.
Yeah.
If that's the
Well, the
case,
cameras can catch things that the human eye can't.
sure.
That's the mechanics of it, right?
Which makes it a bit more unnerving. Because when you can see them, it's one thing and you're unnerved. But when you can't see them, you kind of wonder, where are they? How many of them are around us at any given time?
Well, it's like I said earlier, and it's like it's the spectrum of light that we can see is very small compared to the entire spectrum of light.
Yeah.
Anything that's outside that spectrum, we can't see it. We could be surrounded every single day by dozens of different people checking us out, but
Yeah.
we don't see them. Maybe they're
Yeah.
just coming down to visit Planet Zoo.
Yeah. Or the legs of a really tall one. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Giant. Yeah. Even even apparitions photobomb for sure. For
Oh,
sure.
I've got a few of those.
No, you do. You do
Yeah.
for sure. Okay, comment here. They often appear when one's auric energy is weakened due to consumption of alcoholic beverages or other similar toxins, including non-vegetarian dishes. Anything is possible. Yeah, I believe when you're under the influence of something, despite what it is, it's going to open you up more, or it will make you a target
Hmm.
one way or another. I mean, in all the people I've worked with over the years, I have encountered many different um, scenarios, and people going through different things, people going through different types of substance abuse. Sometimes it's something as easy like what we've been talking about, stress, all this angst or fear, different levels of addiction, different levels of mental health. Like there's different reasons that this happens. Sometimes wrong place, wrong time. There are so many different reasons as to why we are sometimes exposed to the world of high strangeness.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a great experience. Other times it's just like sometimes you just happen onto it, and if you're not ready for it and you're not interested in it, but then how many people have we heard about? I know I've heard about so many who live in the world of high strangers and are completely oblivious to it because they just don't care.
No,
They don't care. They don't recognize it. They're just not
no.
interested in it.
It's interesting too. Like I was just thinking, like my dad was in the Navy, right? So I'm always looking at the old Navy ships and stuff. A lot of times, because the inside of these battleships and destroyers and stuff, they're that light gray. You tend to see more dark shapes than you do light shapes.
Mm,
Like the ghosts look or the spirits do take on that shadow figure look. Is
mm,
that just a ghost that's wearing the dark uniforms that they wore back then?
mhm,
In the British Navy, they're all dark uniforms, especially the stokers and stuff under the decks were all dark uniforms. So is that
mm,
what you're seeing, or is it a shadow person that you're seeing?
mhm. I don't know. It makes you wonder.
Mm.
It really does. It makes you wonder. It could be anything. It could be anything.
I wonder if 20 years from now we'd be able to go on like a shadow person walk instead of a ghost walk.
We've seen them though.
Oh,
We've
we've seen
seen them.
them.
I mean, I've seen shadow people myself, at some locations that I have been brought into, to help, or doing tours. The tours are the best because we used to have those on one of the tours that I used to do, and you would just see things just out of the corner of your eye, but an outdoor tour, right? So,
Hmm.
I mean, anything could just blow in with the wind. I mean, you don't know. But things that are just a bit more of a concentrated area when you're seeing them is also very interesting. Melissa, hello. um, so I don't know. I think that again, I go back to the fact that I can tell you when I started in the field a couple plus decades ago, I didn't get as many stories about shadow people. Not that they weren't there, but people just were not reporting it. I find now I see a lot more of it. You're just online, or people will message stories to me, and they're very, very prominent. So it kind of goes into the whole, again, that whole creepy pasta thing, or is it just something that we live in different times? We have different external, frequencies that we weren't subjected to before. And when I say that is when you're projecting out energy, whether it's synthetic or whether it's man-made, like or from us or whatever the case may be, I think it does aid in having other energy beings come forward. It assists them somehow.
And we also live in a time where you're not ridiculed for bringing it forward. I mean, other people just don't know, like you said earlier. I've had people say to me, like, I'll talk about something and they're like, "Oh man, I see that all the time. Is that a thing? Like, I thought it was just me." you know, and they don't
Yeah.
talk about it because they just think they're seeing something
Mhm.
they don't understand. It. Oh, it's just the house. It's normal. It's the airflow. It's
Mhm.
something, but they don't talk about it. Then I go blah 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 blah, and they're like, "Oh yeah, me too. I've had that. I didn't know." So,
No, but how would you? It's not something that was very mainstream to communicate about. But I love that, we are in a day and age where people can share these kind of stories with ease. Man, oh man, back in the day, my mother, don't talk about things like that. But you know what? I came from an active place, and I do not recall seeing shadow beings.
no,
I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe I came from a family that was like so straight laced they squeaked. So
Ah,
there was nothing. My house could have been full blown haunted, and they would just be like, "There's nothing. Go back to bed."
yeah, maybe.
Or they'd
I
use
don't
it
know.
against me. You didn't eat your Brussels sprouts, and that's why they're coming to get you.
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh
but
yeah.
they instill the fear of God into you. It's just
Oh, for
like,
sure.
oh my God. Um, so here's also a good point. I had a twin die in the womb when I discovered her attachment still to me. When I realized her, I
Nice.
noticed whatever I felt watching me felt like it was a shadow out of the corner of my eye often.
Mm,
Interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. Crazy, crazy. Um, so I mean, if we talk about the term darker than dark,
Yeah.
you know, yeah. Uh, what's the answer? Have you seen anything paranormal? Answer me, okay? um, darker than dark, because I have seen darker than dark, and if there's a shadow, because in heightened levels of activity, you will have people talk about it was darker than dark.
Hmm.
You've talked about that.
Oh yes.
you know and you would know if that was a shadow, if there was a shadow in there, or whatever, however they're manipulating the environment coming in, within the space. How would you know?
I mean, I've got up at night, and I know the layout of the room. I know where the light comes in from outside. The room has a certain ambient light about it. And some nights I get up and it's so dark.
Hmm.
I'm thinking, like, before I take another step, I literally go and touch my eye because I'm thinking I'm walking with my eyes closed. That's
Oh,
how dark it is.
yeah.
And I touch my eye and I'm like, no, I'm like wide awake staring into the darkness. And like, why is the room so dark right now? Because it's just unnaturally dark. I'm thinking, oh, there's gonna be a power outage on the street. And I
Right.
go to the curtain and I open it up. Outside's fine. Just the room's all black.
Yeah. Hmm. But see, Kat says her hat man was darker than dark. So I guess, they can be. But I don't know. It freaks me out to think when I look at that picture and
Hmm.
thinking that somebody took a picture. It's like me coming in the house taking a picture of you,
Hmm.
and then and that's an old picture
Yeah.
as well. That was an old picture. So I don't know if it was a film picture, just digitized when it was put to the computer, whatever the case is. It's like nobody saw it, not the person taking the picture or the person who's on the receiving end of having a photo taken. So if
Yeah.
that's the case, how many are roaming around? Like I've always, said, we share space with a whole other world that many people have no idea. Many people see them all the time, but many people have no idea which is another reason, to try to develop abilities, utilize those abilities, and just see who you're sharing space with. Because some of the most gifted mediums don't see everything.
Yeah.
They pick up on this, and this, but they don't necessarily see certain, ethereal beings when they're coming in.
Makes shower time a lot more interesting, doesn't it?
I don't want to know that.
See, that's what I mean. You start going down that road. It's just like, yeah, you know what? How about no?
Yeah, you've had that.
Oh, I have had that.
You have
But they
had.
were respectful spirits. That's fine.
Yeah.
That's okay. You can talk to them. I see them.
Yeah.
What about the 50 other hat men that are standing in the shower with me that I don't see?
I don't know, but yeah,
Not helping.
You have respectful spirits. It's definitely easy, to coexist, sort of thing. But I don't know. I'll tell you, like I have seen many times in my life. Sometimes just when you're just out running errands, for example, you get you. I've seen shadows in stores. So, like, that's just in stores. I mean, you just kind of see something in the corner of your eye, you realize there's nobody there. So, I don't know.
The only thing I see in store is my credit card debt following me along. That's like a dark shadow. Especially at Princess Auto.
Wow.
Well, here he comes again. He's going to buy more tools. Oh.
Yeah, judging you in the shower.
That's it. Oh, yeah.
I
They
know.
would.
I don't know.
You need to lose some weight, doughboy.
Maybe the fact that you see them now and not when you're younger is a case of hitchhikers, possibly. When we talked about the whole hitchhiker theory, right?
I mean, we're supposed to have all these ethereals like walking along with us, Yeah, I don't know that too, eh?
Pajama shadow people, maybe.
I mean, I'm just saying, like, if we've got all these beings like watchers and so forth. My mom talked about watchers in her hospital room, and like I said, my mom was just like, like nothing beyond basic, like nothing.
Yeah.
She wouldn't know what a watcher was if it came up and slapped her, And she said it rolled out of her mouth. I'm walking into the room, like it's a nice day, isn't it? And I almost fell out of my shoes. I'm like, what did you just say? Because that's not my mom, right? That's totally not my mom.
No.
And she was like, "Oh, it's watch the watcher over. He's a bit aggressive today. Not very friendly guy. Just sit on this side of the bed. I don't like him much."
Did she ever describe him?
Well, she just said he was tall and he was dark and he wasn't very friendly.
What if it was just the watcher? Could have been a tall shadow being.
Well, she called him the watcher. She said right off the bat, "Hi, Wayne, come on in. Don't go around this side of the bed. The watcher's standing in the corner, and he's not very friendly today." She didn't watch paranormal shows, didn't read paranormal books, had no ghost books, had no ghost stories.
She went through a transition where
I know she did.
She was going to pass, right?
Yeah, I know she did.
And she might have passed and actually come back real quick. But how long after that experience did she pass?
Less than a year, more than 6 months. Somewhere.
Well, she said that to you at the second location, the location where she passed. So
yeah, the last the last location she was in,
which is where So she was only there like what, 6 to 8 months. So
yeah.
So how long in between that experience and the time? Because she was seeing all kinds of stuff.
Well, that was nearing the end of her physical existence here. So it could have been 4 months before the end. Somewhere in there, like that's in. But she was seeing all kinds of stuff, talking about all kinds of stuff. But the one that blew my mind was the watcher, because, like I said, she would have zero point of reference for that. Zero.
Yes.
So where'd you pull that out of your purse from? Tell me that, because you would have no point of reference again, right?
Yeah. Because they say when people are close that they will see like all kinds of things. They'll see their loved ones. They'll just start having recollections of their past and such, and just start talking themselves through it. But yeah, she saw crazy stuff.
I wish, in hindsight now, I've said this to you many times, and it sounds
Yeah.
callous and uncaring, and I'm not. I wish I had just turned my video on my phone as I walked in that room every day, because the stuff that she would say 3 out of 5 days was just like mind blowing to me, who is
Mhm.
paranormally intrigued about everything.
Yeah.
To hear my mom, who is not, talking about the stuff that I've only just started learning about. Give me
Yeah.
more. How do you know this?
Yes. Yes. Or they just kind of smile off in the corner, smile, and kind of like,
Where?
my mother
Where?
was doing that. I'm like,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I don't know. Watchers to me came to me in a meditation that I had never heard of them at that point. Yeah. And Kevin, hello. 3 times I've seen shadow beings, 4 of them in treetops watching me as I was walking. I didn't hang where you hang. Between that and the translucent, iridescent Bigfoot. I just we're in the wrong place. But once
We
in a
are.
dream, one raced like the flash to my neighborhood. Followed I followed it up and caught up to it and asked, "Who are you?" And it vanished, leaving behind a brown robe. For real brown robe? Come on. Really? Or
Wow.
or are we just talking like an energy thing? Because that is
Road
insane.
trip to his house.
Or in your dream, the dream left behind a brown robe. I'm okay. I'm trying to keep up. I'm reading all these different messages. We're on 8 different platforms. Okay. Okay. And the third time, one racing again,
Like the Flash.
like a flash down my street. God.
Like the Marvel comic guy, the
Yeah.
Flash,
Like
right?
flash. Yeah. The flash.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. There was another comment I want to go back. I put it up, but I just wanted to read it out for. Okay, pertaining to your mother, it's just for our audio listeners.
Mhm.
Maybe your mom had innocently called him a watcher because he was standing there watching her all the time.
Quite possible. I mean, it's just like how did she
Yeah.
say? She goes, "Be careful, there's a watcher." Like she goes, "Don't go around that side of the bed, Wayne. Just sit on this side of the bed. Get a chair because there's a watcher standing over in the corner and he's in a bad mood today, or he's in a foul mood today, or something along those lines."
Mhm.
So is he jovial other days, or he's just a sour face?
I
Like,
don't know.
like, where is he? I mean, I
But
want to go over in
again,
the corner and like do that, right? But
she seemed to be really relaxed about it. I mean, the
oh,
fact
she
that
was. It was
just
matter
go
of
over
fact.
here because he's cranky and he's over here. Like she didn't really seem to be disturbed by his presence at
Yeah,
all.
but if you knew my mother, nothing disturbed her. She's cranky old thing, right? I mean, I'm sure
Kindred
she passed
spirit,
that first
maybe.
night. Yeah, man,
Yeah.
she passed that night at 3 o'clock in the morning, and in that cold winter's night. And I
Mm.
was sure she'd breathed her last. And when she took a second breath, I almost stroked out. But I'll tell you,
Mhm.
when she came back, and she was completely a different person. I mean, like night and day. Like her
So what
personality was like,
changed her?
oh, she probably saw something she didn't like on the other side. You got to go back and be nice and make amends, because she, like, even my nephew, who didn't get along well with his grandmother, basically went to see her, and she was praising him up and down how smart he was. He come out of there to my sister and said, whatever Joyce is on, they were called her grandma. Whatever Joyce is on,
I want them.
I want that, because that is some trippy stuff going on in that room right now.
Maybe she was someone else.
Still, it's the same. She was my mother in every aspect except the nastiness was gone.
She even shared her chocolate.
Yeah, she didn't do that with strangers. Hello. She
Mom,
didn't share
yeah,
chocolate.
mom
She
did
didn't
not
share
share
anything with
stuff.
anybody. She
No.
just held on to everything,
Mm.
everything. And then when she came back, she was like, "Oh, this is my friend Ron next door. He's delightful. Have a Smartie, Ron." And Wayne's like, "Have a Smartie, Ron? Well, you're sharing Smarties with Ron?"
I know. I know. I mean, you know what? There's one thing about the world of high strangers. It does have a way where some experiences will change you.
Mhm.
They will. They will change you. Um, she had a deliverance. Hallelujah. Yeah.
Well, she had something. I'm sure of
Yeah.
it. And she kept
Yes.
talking about trains and I'm not going to take this carrier anymore. They haven't loaded my baggage. And Wayne's thinking, oh, all your baggage, old woman, you got baggage.
Yeah,
You're
that
not
baggage
crossing.
ain't
You're
going
not
with you.
crossing with
Yeah.
all that. I promise you. It was
Yes.
interesting. The terminology she would use was very interesting to me. She was
Yeah.
always traveling. She was always waiting at the station. How long do I have to wait at the station? I mean, I came in one day and she says, what are you doing here? I said, I came to visit you. She said, aren't you supposed to be working tonight? I said, yeah, I got to work tonight, but it's okay. I got lots of hours. But she goes, well, how did you get here to France? And I'm like, oh, I just took the channel. They've got a tunnel under the channel now. We just take the train. She's like,
Did your
oh,
mom
that's
think
right.
she's still in England?
No, Mom said she was in France. She was living
Oh, but
here in
she thought you
Canada.
were in England.
She wanted to know how I got from England to France because that's where she thinks she is.
Right. Okay.
Right. So I just went with
Yeah.
it because I was like, tell me more.
Yes. 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 Oh, yeah. But she went for it. So
Oh,
which
she
is really
did. She was filling
yeah.
me in all about the train and how terrible it was and they're not treating her well
Yeah.
and
It it
intense.
it it seems like she was, obviously she was given an opportunity. If I had to take a guess,
Yeah.
because we often you live your life a certain way, and sometimes it's not of your own doing initially. Something really traumatic happens to you that puts you on that certain path. So sometimes I don't know, does it give you a free pass or they just say, look, we're going to give you another 6 months
Yeah.
to right your wrongs, and then we'll reassess, right? Um,
Yeah.
and it really feels like that.
It does for sure. Deal with your baggage because you can't come over with all that. You got to go back and deal with your baggage before you come back.
Yeah.
And I think they basically sent her back and said, sort out your nonsense, woman.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was it. She said some bizarre stuff. I mean, my mom, she was in the British Land Army. She saw stuff, right? She saw all kinds of stuff, the bombings, the Blitz, all kinds of stuff.
Mhm.
But the stuff that she would say was mind blowing, mind blowing.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, I remember some of the stories.
Oh, we do a whole show on my mother if you want sometime.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God. Huh. Well, getting back to shadow people.
Yes, please.
Um, hmm. I don't know. I think, what in your opinion, after everything that we've read tonight, in your opinion, what are they? Do you think they're astral or dimensional beings? Do you
They're
think
dimensional.
they're dimensional, right?
They're dimensional beings. They might even share space with us, but they're like 1/16th out of our dimension
Mhm.
in a different light frequency, and we can't see them.
Mhm.
Right?
Right.
They might be, you know, they might they could share the same planetary space we have, exactly the same.
Mhm.
They could walk on the same ground, you name it, right? And we just don't see them because they're just like I always say, 2 degrees left of center, you don't see anything,
Mhm. That's
right?
true.
So
Because
you don't.
there's another theory. Energy vampires. They are thought to drain energy, particularly in environments with high levels of anxiety, anger, or distress.
Well, that's just my ex-wife,
Oh,
right?
ouch.
Suck
I'm
the
not
life out of
touching
anything.
that one. I'm not touching that one. Um, we do function from a different frequency than entities. Yes, absolutely. Without a doubt.
100%.
Without a doubt.
100%.
Yeah.
But even if they, like I said, even like the absence of light, like the total absence of light, it doesn't penetrate, right?
Mhm.
That tells me that we wouldn't see them within our light spectrum.
Mhm.
We wouldn't see them. The camera might see them.
Mhm.
It'd be interesting just to randomly take an old camera and just fire it around the house one day without giving pre-notice. Just
Mhm.
do the dishes, pick up the camera, and fire it away
Mhm.
and see what you get. Because I got some really good stuff over the shoulder stuff. Because here in 3-dimensional, we can see 3 sides of a cube. In 4
Mhm.
dimensions, you'd see the back side of the cube as well. So while I'm looking forward, I'd be able to look behind me at the same time. That's 4 dimension, right?
Mhm. Yes. Um,
The way
yeah.
I understand it to be. Maybe I'm not a scientist. I don't know.
You had, I swear, I thought you told me that you had shadow experiences at the manor.
Well, my memory's it's not the best these days. I've seen all kinds of stuff at the manor, all kinds, like sounds more than anything.
Mm.
Like all kinds of weird things going on, right? Down the basement. Yeah, I mean, I saw like when we were putting the gas lines in for the gas fireplace,
Mhm,
and we had that couple over helping us, and I looked out from the crawl space because they went to get pipe and they had to carry it in, the two of them. And
mhm,
I was sure they were there. And I looked up and it was like it was, just as if the guy was standing there and his shadow was being cast on the back wall. But then it wasn't there all of a sudden. So
mm.
again, I'm very logical. Like it's dark, there's limited light.
Sure.
Did I just, as I looked up, did something move up with my eyes and it looked like him crouched down over a pipe, but
Mm,
really it wasn't there at all.
mhm. Possible. Yeah. Kevin says, I agree that shadow people are are parallel to us. If you see them, they are forewarning of something. Pay attention to the clues with where they are seen and what they are doing, what clothing they have left behind, that kind of thing. And then continues on, confronting all clues. Look to the messages that they bring. See, that's another thing. So essentially, you're saying, because this is one we haven't tackled.
Mhm.
Kevin says messengers.
Could be messengers, but you'd have to sort of do like I said, a poll, a study. Anybody that's
Mm,
had a shadow person, did they communicate to you? Did they speak?
mhm,
Did you get a sense of, oh, I shouldn't touch the stove today? I mean, I'm just throwing examples out there.
mhm.
Like I don't know what I mean, I always used to joke around when I would be praying. I would be like, I need an answer to this, and like, don't tell me you sent me an answer via a cardinal flying north by northwest. I need a fax. Send me an email.
Pigeon
Like
Express. Yeah.
I need something decent to go on. So I'd be
Yeah.
curious to see what kind of messages they are giving and how that message is coming through. Collectively, it would be a good study to do, like
Mhm,
even with our listenership, your listenership,
mhm,
to figure it out, right?
mhm.
I'd be so curious to know how many people see them, and out of the 100 people that see them, did 10 people get a message? Did no one get a message? I'd be
Mhm,
curious.
mhm. Well, here's another good point. Hey, Allison. We
Hey,
used to talk about the weirdness at the old empty building you had to fix switches at work.
oh yeah, there was weird.
Shadows there.
There was weirdness in that place. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. That was. I didn't see shadow people. Like I saw apparitions.
Mhm,
Like my buddy. Like I was on a show talking about this one time, and my this is a big building that was built in the 20s, and it held at the time it housed all the operators, all the women operators in the
mhm,
20s for the phone system in Toronto.
mhm,
When I got there, it's largely empty because all that stuff is handled, electronically now by big machines. And I would just have to go in and do cable work and stuff. But
mhm,
he said, I'm going to the bathroom. I'll be back in a few minutes. I says, okay. And the bathroom was to my right. And so I watch him walk away. And I'm on my computer doing my thing. And then from my left, where this big bank of equipment is, somebody comes around the corner of it. And I'm thinking, God, that was quick. Like he went that way. He must not have to go to the bathroom. He's just messing with me, right? And as I looked up like this to say, well, that was a quick pee.
mhm,
It was a woman, and she had a skirt on. The skirt was beige, and I could only see her legs to the knee. And as I looked up at her, she vanished from the knee up past her blouse, and then her head and her hair, and her gone. Yeah. So there
mhm,
was all kinds of stuff like that. I'd feel people walk past me. You could hear the footfall, like do 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 do, and I look up, there'd be nobody there, and then I say he because I could feel the breeze blow, and my hair would move,
mhm,
right, and then I could smell the cologne in the vacuum of the breeze.
mhm. Yeah, that's crazy. That is
Yeah,
crazy.
that was a
Uh,
crazy building.
mhm. Maybe they're monitoring both us and our guides and helpers. Yeah, for assessing the situation, cueing the situation, maybe.
I'd
Ye
like to think that's what it is.
Yes. Do you remember when we were brought in to investigate that old asylum? There's shadows everywhere there.
Oh my, I got a great picture of that.
I
Oh
know,
man.
right?
Yeah, that was
We
wild.
only just thought about it now. Otherwise, yeah, we could have queued that up.
Yeah,
Thing with that, let's talk a minute about because we've been talking about how they come in around angst and fear, sadness, stress. I mean, we have to think about why they're there and
yeah.
what life there would have been like.
Yeah, because like any of the stuff that we've read about, watched on the telly, things like that is
Mhm,
you get asylums like tuberculosis places and insane asylums and lunatic asylums.
mhm,
There is anybody that's investigating these places, they
mhm,
see a lot more of the dark shadow beings than what they ever do, like ghosts and stuff. You constantly see these dark shadows and shapes darting about and things like sometimes they're three-dimensional. You see them move across a hallway where the next wall is like 100 yards down the hallway, but you see the shadow not on the wall, but it's
mhm,
manifested in real time in between those two doors. It's wild. And that
mhm,
is that asylum that we went to. I took a picture, and everyone was so fascinated because the picture caught a rod, like a
mhm,
white rod, and they were so focused in it. But when we
mhm,
looked at it, we pulled the picture up, we magnified it. There is this shadow person just sort of peeking out around a corner, and you don't see it because it's dark, and it's
mhm.
that darker than dark situation.
Again,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
See
Glad you
that.
brought that up. I totally forgot about that picture. That's wild.
That place was crazy. It just was,
Yeah,
like, if you think about it fits the bill of everything
yeah,
that the kind of energy that would attract beings like that.
for sure.
And this is okay, I think this was mentioned earlier before. Yes, actually, there is a theory
Yeah.
about that where and I think it was a CIA, person who had theorize about this. I think there was something that was online like a couple years back when I think about it. But they said that some RVs might be looked at or mistaken as shadow people when their consciousness or conscious awareness is operating, I guess how it's explained is I guess outside the physical. So
Mhm.
if it's detected, let's say by somebody on the receiving end. So it's a debated thing, but they do think that it's a possibility. Or let's say somebody having even an out of body experience. It doesn't necessarily have to be, um, a remote viewer. It could just be someone having an out of body experience, which lends to the fact where we come back full circle and say, okay, so do we have other beings from other realms if or in the ethereal, and if you're having an OBE, you're pretty much essentially within the ethereal as some of the RVs would be. And is that what we're seeing? It's aside from the hat man and the coat, that's such a typical look though.
Hmm. Oh, yes, it is a typical look. You either have the guy in the coat and the hat, or you got
Yeah.
Mr. Q-tip man, really thin, slender,
Yeah.
kind of bulby hands and bulby head, no fingers, and it's just they dart, they move real quick.
Mhm.
Whereas the hat man, they kind of just stand there. They're like loiterers.
Mhm. Yeah, that's true.
Mm.
Because I mean,
So
we're all
does that
different.
mean they're two? Does that mean they're two different people or two different kinds of entities? If you've got the one spindly stick figure guy, and then you've got the guy in the trench coat and the hat, are they from the same dimension, the same realm, or are they two entirely different things?
Well, I find it interesting, because the Men in Black theory that you mentioned that tends to be very physical. People see them very physically.
Yeah, in the
They
40s.
see them, but in sometimes they just look like regular. They're from here,
Hmm.
but other times they're seen as looking like their features look like they're very much not from here.
Yeah, they're
So
not.
when we're looking at, hi, Kaysen, nice to see you. Um, if we're factoring in the traditional look, like a hat man, Sometimes just a hat. Other times it's the trench coat. We all look different. I think when we're having an OBE, I mean, are we not more light based? That's a
I would
question.
think. I
As
would think
opposed
you
to
are.
like shadow based.
Hmm. But what if the shadow base, like the shadow beings coming from another dimension, are they themselves having an out of body experience from their dimension and drifting into ours?
Hmm. I
I
don't
always
know.
say about when we were talking about dragons the other day, I said like, could there be like 5 dragons flying around in their dimension, and one goes through a portal, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, have you seen Dave? And Dave the dragon's gone, and all of a sudden we've got
David
him flying
Dragon's
over
gone.
Arizona, and people are taking pictures of Dave, and
Yeah.
Dave's like, where's my buds?
What
Where's my
happened?
buds?
Yeah.
Go, how did I get
Dave's
here?
like, well, it's like the missing 411.
Truth.
Like this idea was, you're hiking with your buddy and you turn around and they're gone. And meanwhile, you're only like 4 feet away from each other and they're just
Yeah.
like gone. So, I mean, Dave might have run into the same situation, but
We just
like
don't know.
I could see an RV look, depending on the intensity of the projection, because the density is different than, let's say, having an OBE sort of thing.
Yeah, I think like on the RV thing, the one thing that I remember seeing, oh, this is probably 4 years ago now, maybe a little bit longer. They were talking about a guy that was a really good natural RV,
Mhm,
and he was working when he said, I worked for, this entity, this
mhm,
government thing, right? And they were testing me all kinds, and I was doing really well. And then one day I came in, and they said, okay, they just gave me numbers. They said, here's the
mhm,
numbers, go have a look and tell us what you see. So
mhm.
he said, I meditated on the numbers. And he said, I finished up off world. Like I was
Yeah.
not on Earth. And he said, I was on another planet, and it was the end of days for this planet. It was in its last stages, and people were in a panic. And he said, I stood there in this room, and there was a man there, and he was all in like a white kind of gown, and he was talking to his younger son who was
Mm,
panicking. And the guy said, the man who was talking to his son all of a sudden stopped and looked right at me, like directly looked at me. And I'd never seen anybody notice me before. And I said, all I could say to him is, can I help you? And he said, no, you can't. Go home.
mm,
So what did that guy who was looking back at the RV guy, what did he
mhm.
see? Did he see the RV guy in jeans and a t-shirt, or did he see a shadow person?
Ah, yeah, yeah. So, I mean, we've explored a lot of different scenarios tonight. We really did, and
It's fast.
it is, and it's one of those things that, like I say, you get a lot of people who will agree to disagree. A lot of people within various fields of high strangeness will come out and say, "Jinn, demons,
Hmm.
malevolent ghosts, you know, travelers." Travelers is a big one. That's a
Time
real big
travelers.
one. Time travelers is a big one,
Yep.
but yet you have those who are kind of like, no. But if you could think that an RV or someone having an out of body experience can be perhaps seen as a shadow individual, then why not time travel? Like,
Hmm.
or people who are in their sleep state. You're in your sleep state. You can be. We travel in our dreams. So is this how they're seeing us? Yeah, I think so as well. Ah, Yana,
I've never thought about
nice to see
I've
you.
I've never thought about an RV being seen. Like it's not like you're getting out of your seat and going to that location. It's your
Mhm,
mind, it's your consciousness
mhm,
going. So what did that guy see? Was it just an orb? He
mhm,
talked to the orb. Was it just your light essence is what he's
mhm,
looking? I don't know what he's looking at. But
mhm,
there's a show I'd love to do with you at some point down the road. Is you've got these misplaced artifacts or out of place artifacts, right? Is I would love to do a show on like the photographic evidence and video evidence they've got of all these alleged time travelers, people that are like right out of space and time. And you're just like, no, this is a picture taken in 1800 and this guy's wearing a sweatshirt and wraparound sunglasses.
We will.
Love it.
That will have to be two-parter, but we will do it just because I have so much information on that. I've done
Love
shows
it.
on this before, but it will be, a different spin to it because there's so much more information that is out there, Well, I don't know. It was a lot of fun, I mean,
It's always a lot of fun. I
yeah,
always come out of this with my head spinning, going, "Oh, now I got more questions than answers."
yeah. I just, like I said, there's one thing for certain in the field of high strangeness, people associate shadow people with the paranormal. But I remember we saw this one show, and I won't name it, but we saw this one show with Bigfoot, and they saw a shadow person in the woods, in and around the same time that they spotted Bigfoot.
Yep.
So we've got that the cryptid thing again. I guess if you just say it's high strangeness on average, it's like orbs. People say, well, there's a scientific reason, there's a paranormal reason. The orbs are often seen around, UFOs, UAPs, around ETs, as much as the paranormal and cryptids, and we're getting into quantum things. So here we are. We have shadow people also spotted. Not, we learned earlier that around UFOs as well, and now cryptids.
That's why I said at the beginning of the show, like the distance between all these elements of high strangeness is getting smaller and smaller. It's not getting bigger and bigger. Like where it's actually coming together.
Yeah.
It's very interesting to me.
Yeah. Well, everything comes around full circle. It's all connected, without a doubt. Everything is connected. So I think it's just a matter of connecting the dots, just paying attention, noticing perhaps, and not just sort of frou-frouing everything off, but being logical at the same time. So, guys, yes,
I have my moments of not being logical.
it happens. It happens.
A lot.
It does. It does.
Me and my shadow.
Oh boy. Here we go. Here we go. but it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed doing this segment. Like I said, this is kind of a test run. I've been asked about this several times before, but I've never really gotten into a whole lot of detail. Again, it's just very, for me, very generic. But when I really started getting into the folklore of it, and getting into the science behind it, and connecting the dots between the different levels of highly strange occurrences, and you realize just how they're popping up everywhere, right down to the whole tulpa trope thing. It's just is also very interesting when you think about where it started.
Yeah.
Creepy pasta. Who knew? Right? Who knew?
I had a bowl of that the other day. It wasn't very good.
I know. So we're going to end it there. And it was, again, a lot of fun. Guys, it's always so much fun hanging out with all of you. I appreciate you all so much being in the chat room and giving us your opinions and your stories. It's important. You guys just make it that much more fun. So we're going to have really great week again next week, guys. We're starting off Monday night is our True Real Cryptid Legends show. And that's going to be with Daryl Denton, Ron Moorhead, myself. And boy, it's so much fun for me. And I wish I could just say everything, that I already know, because I have to put the show together for us. But we are welcoming a man named Joe Barger. And he's going to be sharing, literally, when I say a hair-raising dogman experience, I mean it, hair-raising. And put your seatbelts on, because it's going to be a guaranteed wild ride. But this one was a highway encounter that led to a shooting. So yeah, You don't want to miss this. And that's going to be 10:10 p.m. Eastern Time, Monday night. You are not going to want to miss it. Tuesday, Beyond the Outer Realm. Barbara With returns. She's just awesome. And we're going to be having a discussion about the evolution of human consciousness. And this is so in her wheelhouse. She is so beyond well versed on this. If you really want, a really deep, conversation about consciousness, the evolution of human consciousness, tune in Tuesday, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Wednesday, another hot one. Samuel Chong returns and does another interesting topic. This time, wait for it, he's translated a book called 334% Lies, The Secrets of the Secret Society.
Oh,
Yeah, it's like one of these. I can't. I have to be so careful. A sensitive conversation and a must for anyone who's interested in the topic. Probably best place to leave it. Thursday, welcoming for the very first time special guest Michelle Heaton, who joins us to discuss her new book, The Dream Guardian: Sasquatch and a Path to Awakening. It's a journey into the unknown where the boundaries of reality blur and the heart begins to remember. Through vivid storytelling and heartfelt reflection, the book invites you to walk alongside her as she navigates the thin line between myth and reality, fear and faith, solitude and connection. And it's a story of transformation and learning to listen to the whispers of the wild and finding spirit in the most unexpected places. Like, it's a Sasquatch tale, but not what you think. I am really excited for it, actually. This is going to be awesome. So another really, really great week coming up. So please make a point of tuning in. So thank you, everyone. I appreciate you all for tuning in. Wayne, thank you for joining me tonight for another great open
pleasure,
discussion
always.
on the exploration into the shadow people phenomenon. Big thank you to Folgers Coffee. We appreciate you so very much. Big thank you to, of course, Steve McGinnis. Big thank you to the United Public Radio Network 105.3 FM from the Gulf Coast, 107.7 FM from New Orleans. So everyone have a fantastic weekend, and we'll see you Monday night. Thank you and good night.
Bye, everybody.